line. Over there, over there. Send the word over there. That the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming. The drums rum-tumming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer. Send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there, over there, over there. Send the word over.
Hey everybody, this is Joshua Littrell. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Honor Across Arms podcast. I have an amazing guest I'm so honored to have on today, Desmond Dogan. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, Joshua. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you. So, Desmond, if you don't mind, before we get into this podcast to lift up our military service and talk about some of the neat things we've served and done through our careers, give the listeners a little understanding of where you're geographically located in the country today.
I'm in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area.
Awesome. We've had a couple of guests from the Florida area, and the last one that we did was a pretty interesting one. He was in Florida, but he was talking about it being 40 degrees, and that's not something you see every day, but there's a little cool wave coming across the country, so hopefully you're a little bit warmer down there.
Yeah, we got 2 days of that cold weather.
Absolutely, man. It's craziness right now. So, Desmond, you are a Navy veteran. I want to first and foremost say thank you so much for your service, just what you've done for this country. I know that you come from a family that has a number of those who served in the military, and I can't say thank you enough for all of you all for just, being a part of this country and protecting our freedoms. And I, sir, say thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolute honor. Thank you very much.
Desmond, so you joined the Navy, and when you joined the Navy, was there something that you thought about beforehand? Was there a lot of, we talked about the service that you got in your family, but did you come from a long line of military members? What made you think about joining the Navy?
Well, it was interesting. I joined because I had a big brother that kind of recognized I was a little bit lost at 18 and thought that would be good structure for me because I had a athletic background, but it wasn't panning out like for a lot of folks. And so it did give me a career. So it was an amazing opportunity.
Well, I tell you what, it changes a lot of people's lives for the better. And I know that without the military, I probably would have just gone down a terrible road. And thank goodness for the United States Air Force that I served in to give me my core values that I still live by today, integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all that I do. It sets us up for the future. There's no doubt about it. When you joined the Navy, did you choose a job or a career path to go into, or did you go in open general?
I chose corpsman, and then when I got in, I also chose to be an operating room tech. So I had my initial corpsman rating, and then I went on to work in the operating room.
Well, wow. So, Desmond, for our listeners and to help them understand, what is a corpsman in the United States Navy? What does that mean?
Well, it can mean a lot, from being a clinic person, but we're the medical staff for the U.S. Navy and also the Marine Corps. So a lot of corpsmen could be actually deployed with a battalion and be, first there to fight, or could be there like I was in the operating setting, could be on a aircraft carrier. I was also in the jungle setting up MASH units and things like that. So corpsmen, there's corpsmen that are Navy SEALs because they're the ones that could take care of their brothers and such if they're on certain deployments.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you're basically a medic. That's what a corpsman is. Is that what I understand?
Absolutely. And the unique fact is Navy corpsmen, we were the ones that started the physician assistant program because of the wartime and how the Navy corpsmen responded in the field. The PA program that we now have in the U.S. was derived from that.
That is a really neat, interesting tidbit of history right there. I didn't know that. I think our listeners are going to be really impressed by that as well. That's pretty awesome. I think about the
Yeah.
corpsman as that kind of jack of all trades, Desmond. I think of you being able to handle any situation that you're faced with, whether it's peacetime, whether it's wartime. I think that if there's a car accident, you could jump in there and take care of that. If there was a bomb that took out a battalion, you could go in and help those people, stop the bleeding, save limbs, save lives. You could just basically do it all as a corpsman. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And, to this day, I still have a pack in my car ready to go if I happen to be the first one to come up on the scene. And it kind of just stays with you. You always have a backpack full of stuff and waiting for the next thing. You kind of anticipate the next move or the next issue. You become good at that.
That preparation for life. People don't understand what that means. And when you and I chose to serve and protect our country, our family, and our friends, they don't understand that that's not just for the time that we are committed to the military, but that's for the rest of our lives. I mean, you and I are committed to even still trying to serve this country today. And that's something I think that, a lot of people don't understand about those military men and women, our brothers and sisters, that once we serve, we always typically serve. We serve for the rest of our lives. And I thank you for that. What kind of service have you done since you've gotten out of the military? What kind of neat things have you been able to pursue?
Well, gosh, I was a choreographer. I became a professional golfer. I ran a lot of nonprofit programs to give back to underprivileged young people as well.
That life of service, Desmond. That's what you are, and that's what you embody, and that's what really lifts this country up. And we are the backbone of this country. So you join the Navy, and you go in to be a corpsman, and then you got orders. Where did you end up going to, and where did you serve at around the globe?
I served in San Diego, Norfolk, Virginia, and then I had an awesome opportunity to go to Yokosuka, Japan.
Wow, Japan. Now, we've had a couple of different, guests on the Honor Across Arms podcast that have talked about Japan, and I want to let you expand on that a little bit. But, man, I know I served in Korea, and the Asian population, those Asian people are phenomenal. I absolutely love the culture. I love the food. I love the country. Was that the kind of experience that you had? But before we get into that, where did you come from before you went to Japan? Where were you from originally? Where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, and I had a unique experience to play ice hockey and golf, and I kind of took those skill sets to Japan as well, and I was able to really engross myself in Japan because I became a English teacher. And in Japan, it's not like the typical English teaching you would think. It's more conversational because they do easily read and comprehend. But the conversational, they want to know how do you really speak it. So that was a unique opportunity. A lot of military folks would get into that over there. So, and also danced over there. So back in the days in the 90s when hip hop first came out, I was out there in Roppongi, Japan, and getting on the bullet trains and just sharing our culture with their culture. And it was really mind blowing. Also, I had an opportunity to live off base. So I was in the population. And so I would do my fitness and, eat in the community and shop in the community and live in the community there. So I really had an awesome opportunity to get myself engrossed in the culture. One of my commanders, he was big time in kendo, so he taught me a little bit about the culture there, martial arts, and just the centuries old culture there. You really feel it when you're there, and a lot of respect and dignity in that culture.
We as Americans think that we have this amazing history. We're so arrogant about it a lot of times. Man, you get to Japan, I bet you saw those are hundreds and thousands of years that go back where you're like, wow, we think about 200 years, 300 years here in the United States. What kind of history were you able to see in Japan?
Gosh, I saw from, Mount Fuji to experiencing even the modern type things, because even back in the 90s, they were well ahead and had the bullet train. So back then, the bullet train would go 200 miles an hour. So you could experience a lot of different things. You experience how they even back in those days, like I mentioned in the 90s, they had so many people that at rush hour they had certain folks to push people on the train. So I got to experience that type of madness in downtown Tokyo, and they were the first ones as far as over advertising and over sensory before New
overload.
York had, yeah, they had the lights going and Roppongi before really New York had it. And so I always got there and just couldn't understand all the lights, and it was mind blowing. A kid coming from Wilbraham, you have a 2-lane road and a couple of lights. You go there, it's like, what in the world? So it's kind of opens your world to different things. And I had experience because I was a African American guy who played ice hockey and ended up going to play for Team USA. So I got to travel and represent the country even as a teenager back in those days. So it really brought another country into my focus. So it was really unique.
Wow. I can't even imagine. So when you got over there, were you taken aback by the architecture? Because I've seen a lot of great pictures and you see, Japan in these movies and things. What was the architecture like when you're taking in the country? You get to get yourself immersed in the culture, but tell us about the architecture and what those buildings and things look like.
It was like a symmetry or balance between nature and ancient technology, I guess you could say. You could feel it, some of the ancient temples and even the modern construction still had that same historical presence. I even lived, the home I had was a traditional Japanese home with tatami mats and rice paper doors. And so I had the full experience. So it was just interesting how they use materials, bamboo and, rice and, just to, really decorate their home and make it look beautiful. So there was a lot of different art is a big thing. A lot of undertone messages, if that makes sense. It's like you can see something, but there's a message behind everything, and just how their language is so in depth. And you had to learn it being a medical, because I was first responder and would have to go out into the civilian sector and find my way around or find a patient or what have you.
Wow.
So, at one time I was really fluent in the language, but you had to really adjust your eye to how their language is shaped. And it was really unique. So that, as far as seeing that, you see you go to the big cities, you see the country, and it was all very, very stunning.
Desmond, how does the Japanese culture embrace the new world, which is that technology-based atmosphere, and still marry it with the old world? How do they do that and do that so well? Meaning, the reason I ask that question is we typically don't do that well here in the United States, right? We just bulldoze it right over and let's build on top of it. But they do a really great job of melding those two together and putting them in and making it a beautiful, beautiful venture. Why can't we do that? And how do they do that so well?
I believe it's from the discipline, from their structure. They have a core value system that's really unique and very patient. Even if you noticed when they had the unfortunate tsunami and different things, you notice people standing in line, very patient for food and water. And maybe other countries it would be more of a riot situation and a fear of missing out. It's a very calm, balanced, let's all work together. Let's all make it, symmetrical and be respectful of each other. So they're very respectful of others as well as themselves. So it's, your enjoyment and is probably more important than theirs. So everyone does that, then everybody wins. So it's a very unique situation. So that's why I think it's a lot to do with respect. If you have respect, then you won't really bulldoze over something that is historical. You'll take care of it, you'll nurture it, and try to keep it going as long as possible.
I think that's that's what did it for me. I think being in Korea, that ability to actually have the respect that they do for their elders, the respect for others, that's a big difference. When you try to, figure out how does our country operate, and it's about getting yours and getting and being on the top of that ladder and all that good stuff. And